Hi.
Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to yet again another episode of Interrogation. I need some theme music for that, don't I?
Yeah, you got to find dun 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 or something.
Yeah, I know, right? So this is Nancy Jean from Nancy Jean's Garden. This is Jeffrey from Right Color. We thank them for being here. If you're not familiar with these two lovely people, their descriptions I say that all the time. Their links are in the description box below the video. Please do show my friends some love by supporting their channels. They are awesome. And this is Jeffrey's first time here.
Yes, yay!
Woohoo! So, hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you for joining us. If you guys have any questions regarding tarot reading, how do you shuffle the cards, what suit means what, any of those types of questions, it's not personal questions today, please do throw them in the chat and we'll do our best to get them answered. We're here to have a discussion about all things tarot related. Yay!
Yay!
Yay! All right, so let's start off with a really fun question. What, in your opinion, is essential to giving a good tarot reading?
What is essential to giving a good tarot reading?
Read the cards and tell them the truth.
No. Honesty does help.
Yes.
And that's the end of the show, folks. Thanks for being here. Pretty much sums it up, doesn't it?
Well, I was taught that by an astrologer who told me, just read the chart. Just look at each planet, think out where it is, work it out in your brain, and then tell the story. Right. And that really goes for the cards. So when I would sit down at table at like the wine set at times 10, there were Tuesday nights when I was like, what if it doesn't work? You'd have thought I'd done it long enough. I'd know it works. Right. And I trained myself to think, no, just read the cards. The cards always work. And I have to tell them the truth. And, I'm not saying you're going to die tomorrow because I don't see things like that in cards, but I was reading at a party last night and a man sat at my table. I'm not going to go into all the grim details, but I finally looked at him and I said, you're the one who's in charge of what you eat and what you drink, and you need to get control of that. And that's what the cards said. And it was obvious to me they weren't lying. So.
Right.
Yeah. So sometimes I get, as I'm pulling different interpretations, and my job is to deliver the message. That's right. My job. My job is to deliver the message. It's not my job to sit and judge it. Oh, this might be harsh. This might be too this or too that. My job is to deliver the message. So I do that. I try to do it with as much, love, compassion as I can. But sometimes the message needs to be a little bit more,
direct.
Yeah. Yeah. How cute that
that's what it calls for, then that's how it is delivered.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're both speaking at the same time, saying the exact same thing. It's like we're twins.
Well, we read together all the time.
We talk to each other all the time. I mean, we kind of know. I wouldn't read with someone who didn't have skills very near my own and beyond my own in certain ways, and you just do that. Every once in a while we clash. We'll come up with different readings on the same subject.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
It really is.
And if you haven't seen this week's weeklies which is on both Jeffrey and my channel, this week has got to be the most spectacular week I've ever thrown in the garden. It's got to be one of Jeffrey's top throws as far as at the end of the reading, when we turn the camera off, we're going, bye, everybody. And they go, Jesus Christ, did you see what that said?
So I want to say to Jeffrey's point and to Nancy Jean's point, so I've never read with Jeffrey before, but Nancy Jean taught me how to toss tarot, and I will be forever grateful for that. I said to Nancy Jean the last time that she was here that I wanted to invite her to an interrogation. And is there a particular reader that she would like me to invite with her? Or did she want to do it on her own? And she was like, I want Jeffrey. And I'm like, okay, well, hopefully Jeffrey says yes. And then that'll all work out just lovely. So I just think that that's really interesting. And that brings me to another question. And I'm trying to think of a great way to word this, but I'm just going to say it. So we've all had those experiences where we've not read with a person. Maybe we've seen them on a screen or something like that. And we invite them to come into our space and our energy doesn't gel. Right? How does that affect you? I know for me, particularly, if I read with someone where our energies just don't gel, I try to stay focused and just give the readings based on the questions that I'm asked. But it can be tense, not in in an uncomfortable way, not in a like hostile way, but it can be tense, and it can tend to throw me off if my energy doesn't gel with that person. Do you guys have that kind of experience or have anything to add about that?
Nancy.
Okay. If Jeffrey will tell you this, when I'm going to work with somebody, I interview them first. We have a Zoom meeting long before I meet them. And I've never been wrong about that. Now I've been invited into groups where I thought, well, this is an S show. And I really, I don't know what the hell I'm even doing here. And usually what happens is when you're reading with a disorganized reader or a reader who isn't focused, that's when it falls apart. Because as long as you're both focused, even if it's on your own personal point of view, as long as you're focused and they're not being distracted by their kids and the doorbell and, we all know we read in our homes for the most part. So some of that you put up with, but if every show they do is distraction, I won't read with them. I've been invited by people to come read with them and I've watched their shows. And I just tell them I'm focusing on something else right now. Because I have so much other stuff I do. I can say, Jeffrey, now you're stuck. You got it.
I'm very good at not taking it personally. I'm really good at that.
Right.
I'm really good. It's sort of like, you're at a party and either you're like the food is terrible and you're really bored. So I don't make it I don't look at the clock every 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, this will be over soon. And the thing is also that every experience is an experience.
Exactly.
Every experience is an experience. And sometimes you don't even know why you were there or what the experience was until a month later. It's like, aha.
Right.
Aha. So I try my best to just be in it, but I have to say that on occasion I've been it didn't feel right, so I'm not one to go if it doesn't feel right, I don't go back. That's it.
Right.
And I don't have to put up a whole to-do. It's like I just don't go back. It's sort of like eating something that you don't like. If you eat, everyone's like, oh, try this food, right? And then you try it, you don't like it. And then someone offers it to you again. It's like, nah.
Yeah, no. I tried it once. Think you've been there, done that. To Jeffrey's point and to Nancy Jean's point, I don't know about you guys. I've had way more positive experiences than not so positive experiences.
Me too.
Second of all, speaking of distractions, hope y'all can't hear. My stomach is like, so I apologize if that's picking up on the camera or the microphone. And I sort of feel that it's like people that you meet on the street. You're not gonna be BFFs with every single person that you come in contact with, but this is, in a way, a job. If you say that this, I'm going live on Sunday at 3, this is my work that I'm doing, right? And if you're focused and you're passionate about what you're doing, you can zone in, like Jeffrey said, and just, get the job done. And the reason why I asked that question is because I know that there's a lot of people that have fear of the camera or sharing space, feel like they have to be with someone or they don't want to be with someone, like if it's about starting a YouTube channel kind of idea, or maybe just doing private readings over like a Zoom kind of idea. Don't let the fear of not knowing another person or thinking like your personalities aren't going to gel interfere with what you want to do. If this is what you want to do and you're committed to doing it, then try it. Just remember, like, you're not going to fall in love with every single person that you meet on the street. This is no different, right? Because even though we see each other on the screen, we're virtual strangers. I mean, Nancy Jean and I aren't strangers, but like Jeffrey and I are strangers. So, but we're getting on like a house on fire. So there you have it, friends. Hypnocity asked a really good question. Hello, Hypnocity, by the way. Thank you for being here. She would like to know, what is the difference between an oracle deck and a tarot deck?
Okay, I can do that one because I anticipated someone would ask this question.
Aha.
Okay.
Did the oracle or the tarot tell you that?
No, my brain told me that. This is a tarot deck. It's 78 cards that were designed by Rider and Waite. A.E. Waite came up with the ideas. Rider is the woman who did the illustrations. This is not a Rider Waite deck. Jeffrey reads with the original one-of-a-kind Rider Waite deck all the time.
Yes,
so his is the original tarot. All these other tarot decks are permutations of that. So let me see what we got. I told you I was ready for this. Okay. This is like the Lovers in this very contemporary deck. Okay. That's Mystic Mondays. And this is the Lovers in a more traditional format. Now, how much iconography, how much pictures do you need to be able to picture what something is? And then you have dear sweet little decks like this is Hanson Roberts, and that's their Ace of Cups. And it's almost a fairy tale kind of view of an Ace of Cups, but it has all the elements. And then you get to Bradley Valentine, and this is his Archangel Power Tarot. That's a 5 of Michael. That's a very different, that's 5 of Swords. That's very different than other people's 5 of Swords. Let's see if I can find, I kept getting that. Oh, this is another deck's 5 of Swords. You can see how different the images are.
Yeah.
What you want to know, Jeffrey?
No, I'm looking. Yeah, I think
okay. Oh, you're getting the glare out. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't asking the question.
No, this is some people call it the take no prisoners card. If you use this deck, you're taking no prisoners. If you use Radley's deck, he just says this situation doesn't serve you. You can make changes, and he turns into a more positive message.
Right.
That's tarot. It's traditionally got swords, cups, pentacles, and wands, and then it has the 22 in the major arcana, 21 picture cards that are 1 to 21, and then the Fool, who's 0. He's at the beginning and the end. Now, okay, what's the difference with an oracle deck? Each of these cards has been defined over time, and then as you work with them, you'll define them over time, and even using different decks, you'll see different messages. This is an oracle deck, and this is a relatively new one. This is Raise Your Vibration. It's not a set number of cards, but it just has some. This one's a very contemporary one. It's by Kyle Gray. This is one of the cards from the deck, and it says Raise Your Vibration. That's the mantra that I call from out of my aura. Okay. And he says things like, when you pull it, the world is blessed to have you. Okay. That's very different. I mean, it's a very concise, if you want just a one clear, when I read some people last night, and there were 2 or 3 people I ended up pulling an oracle card for. They got the message, but they wanted some more comfort. That's a comforting deck. Now, this is my not comforting deck. And this one is called The Wild Elementals. And that's a dragon's eye on the front of it. That gives some idea where you're going with this. Um, and it has, this is one of the cards in it, and it's the turtle. And then a lot of oracle decks like this one have a little book with them that tells you what the hell's the turtle about. And the turtle actually has to be about, it happens to be about taking things slowly and methodically and moving forward. And the little book looks like this. I'm not going to read all of, obviously, that whole book to you, but I'm not going to read even that part. I just want to give you an idea of how you can use. So that deck can be if you want to pull something for a day to have something to contemplate on. I also know people who pull one at night, and that's what they use to settle themselves down and focus their body. Then I'm going to go through my last two kind of favorite ones right now. This is The Secret of Color.
Nice.
Got that one
And
too. I love it.
I know. And this one is gorgeous. And its guidebook is absolutely incredible.
Is it not? It's fascinating.
It is. Okay, say you pulled yellow, and it means to purify your body. And actually, this is one I pulled for one yesterday. That's a person I told he needed to get control of his own diet. And it's about purification. It's about letting the light in. The light can't get past what you're not purifying out. But the images on these cards,
they're stunning.
They're gorgeous. This is burgundy. And
I think my favorite one is either the peach or the coral. It's very close to the color shirt that Jeffrey's wearing. It's my favorite picture in the whole
and
deck.
This is the rainbow, which is all the colors. And each one of the messages in this book, what I like about it is when I'm talking to people about crystals, I talk about color, and I use a lot of the definitions I've learned from this deck for that. And then, of course, there's my old favorite. And you, Jeffrey, you know this one. This lady stayed at your house. It's the Crystal Lady.
Yes.
This is
Rochelle.
Rochelle. Yeah, she's Australian, isn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Crystal and crystal reading cards, and I use it. Also has a lovely book that goes with it, and it has. I'm not going to pull that stone because nobody's ever heard of that stone. Well, I'm not sure.
Rose Blue says the color cards are also great because there's no need for a magnifying glass.
That's right. I couldn't agree with you more. And the reading book too. Kunzite is it means self-love, and it has a beautiful description. And the good thing about this book is the crystals are in alphabetical order, so you don't have to like look at an index first and then find. So you just kind of have to look around and see what floats your boat. I have another deck. I can't show it to you right now because it's in my phone. It's called The Power of Surrender. It was done by a psychiatrist. And what happens is when I do readings for people, often at the end, there's a way I can shuffle the cards while they're on the phone with me. And when they tell me to stop, that's it. When they tell me to stop, that's the card I send to them. And that's kind of a thought. And it's incredible how close those cards come.
Those cards are awesome.
So with the main difference between an oracle deck and a tarot deck, a tarot is going to have the basis of what was in a Rider-Waite deck. It's going to have, for the most part, 78 cards. There are a couple of weird authors who throw in extra cards. I've never understood that. I take them out because they confuse me. But for the most part, there's 78 cards. They will follow the path of the tarot. And if I ever do my class again, Kelly, you can, I will, I will include it. I do the Path of the Fool, which is how you understand the major arcana. And then I just teach numerology and then the cards. And it's a really easy way to keep them straight. Now, with an oracle deck, you're pulling whatever floats your boat mentally.
Yeah. What do you think, Jeffrey?
I don't use oracles.
Mm-hmm.
I don't use oracles. It just doesn't call me, so I just don't do it.
Right.
Simple as that. And I just stick with this. I don't. It's just too much. Honestly, if I were going to collect things, it would be plants or more clothes, more art.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ceramics, glass. I don't know. I don't feel the need for It just complicates. And for me also, I'm, like I'm going deeper and deeper into the cards, and the more I read, the better a reader I become. And sometimes it's not even about the card. It's really about a message that's supposed to come through. And so I let it come through. I don't know how else to say it.
No, but I mean that's excellent, because it's one of those things that I feel in this context, that you're in the chat and you're watching someone on screen, and you'll hear someone say, I'm drawn to pull from that deck, or I've got this card, and even though the message says this, or this is what this card means, that's not what I'm feeling based on the question that you asked. I'm hearing something else. Mm-hmm. And you think to yourself, well, how did they do that? It's not something that can be explained. That's like, you're not asking a surgeon, how do you sew up a wound? How do you do stitches? It's not like there's no text for it. You know what I mean? Because it's based on intuition. It's based on like feelings. And this is my opinion, right? It's based on your feeling when you is Jeffrey going to move to Mexico, and you put the cards down. Nancy Jean and I could pull the exact same cards, but we could get a totally different message.
Right.
Then again, we could get the same message and still pull the different cards. It's very difficult to explain to someone how you tap into that. And as Nancy Jean alluded to earlier, and so did Jeffrey, the best thing that I can say is you got to trust it. You just really have to trust your intuition, your gut instinct, based on the information that you have and what you see in front of you and your knowledge of how you put the tarot together. You just have to trust the message that you're getting. And I suppose that's a skill in some way, but I don't think of it that way. It just happens. And the reason why I'm saying all that is because everyone who follows me knows that and Nancy Jean knows this, and not to make this about me, but to this point, I was throwing oracle cards. I'd never owned an oracle card before I started my channel. It seemed, relatively harmless. And people would say like, oh, I just seen a rainbow the other day, and I'd pull a rainbow card, and I'd be like, well, I don't know. That's just funny. Look at what a coinky dink. And then someone would say something else, and I'd pull a card, and I'm like, I don't know how this is happening. I didn't own it. I wasn't figuring out the connection. Which is why I needed to go to Nancy Jean to have her help me. But that's where I was going with that. You need to trust it. We have 2 more questions that is really interesting. So G. Covington asks, are all decks available on Amazon or Etsy?
Yes, as far as I know that. Yeah, I don't think that any of them aren't. And
well, if you live in Canada, they're not.
Okay.
Yeah. Like there are decks that you all can get in America that I can't. There's no way I can get them in Canada on Amazon.
The only thing that might happen is it'll go out of print. This is the back of the Luna Soul, and that was the 5 of Swords guy. And this deck, I'll tell you another trick when you're looking at decks. When you're looking at them, they always have, some images from the deck. They also show you the back.
Yeah.
Now, on the back of this card, there's obviously an up and a down. And my experience with designers is when they design them that way, Radley does the same thing. Obviously, that's up and obviously that's down. When they have it that way, they don't want you to read reverses. And if you look at your little white books, they won't have reverses in them.
Right.
But you look at this, it's Mystic Monday. This is its back, and you can't tell which one's which one. So this deck, when you read its little white book, it has reverses in it. I have all of Radley Valentine's. He's the one author I know. He never has reverses. He doesn't believe in them. So he designs his deck so you can get your cards straight right away.
Right.
And it's kind of the size of the card you want and how ornate you want it to be. That, do I use the same layouts? Jeffrey, do you use relatively the same layout.
I usually use what my 3-card layout. So my 3-card layout is really the 3 make a little paragraph, a little sentence, a little story. They're all playing with one another. So sometimes the cards will be similar, so it's almost enhanced. Like if they look the same, if there are 3 wands, if there are 3 kings, something like that. 3 angels, that would be amazing. So it goes like that. It just sort of developed. I don't know how it happened. It just sort of happened. I don't really know how it happened. It's sort of like I have this recipe for making apple pie. Like I don't know how it happened, but it happened. It's interesting because I had somebody, and they're not an intuitive reader. They're a deductive reader.
Mm-hmm.
Which is it's kind of a different animal, but I think it's also a valid avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And she had an understanding of the 3-card reading like a traffic light, which I thought was because generally, aside from like I do the 3-card reading, it becomes one story, right? And a lot of people read like I think a traditional way to read the 3 cards is past, present, future, right?
Mm-hmm.
But she reads it like a traffic light: green, yellow, red.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. Be, to check your stuff, the light's going to change yellow or no.
I love that.
She reads them like, isn't that so? The thing also about spreads is like, yeah, there are a lot of great books with spreads. You can even look up spreads on the internet, but you could also develop your own spread.
I've done that. I love doing that.
Yep.
To that point, Cheryl Stash, I'm not sure if you're still here, but you popped into the chat. So hello. Hi to everyone in the chat, by the way.
Hello. Hi, Gina.
Gerald said, invited me to his channel one day, and he does this fun thing every once in a while, which is kind of cool. So instead of this format, how we are, he sandwiches you together like so, which I don't care for this, but that's how he does it. Mm-hmm. So you all fit like this, right?
Yeah, so it completely screws up your camera placement.
Right. So now I want you guys just grab a card, whatever card it is. Don't show it to us. Just grab a card, whatever, like the first card that you have in your hand or close to your hand. Okay. So then you put them up to the camera backside first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, that's the back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's like basically like 1, 2, 3, and you turn it over.
Okay.
Okay. And now we have to make a reading based out of or answer the question and turn these 3 cards into the answer to the question in the chat. This is our reading. And one day I went there, I'll put us back so it doesn't mess everyone up. One day I went there and he said, I'm trying to think of like that position 1 is this, position 2 is this, position 3 is that. And he was like, I'm not sure. And I said, how about what you see, what you don't see, and what you need to see? And he's like, okay, done. And literally that was our spread. So if you were in position 1, you were what you need to see, or whatever it was. And we basically flipped our cards over and did the readings based on whatever we pulled on the question. And it was so much fun because it was completely different, right? Mm-hmm. I've tried to duplicate that with other people, and it's like Gerald is the master in that department because no one else could figure out what the hell I was trying to explain. So, but it was fun and it was different. And I like to spread my wings like that. I like to do different readings and try different things. You know what I mean? I don't like to follow a roadmap.
Okay, I have another answer to that question. I don't use layouts with Oracle cards.
Yeah.
I just don't. And I have a book that's 366 layouts for your tarot.
Yeah.
And it's every day of the year, and they included the 29th of February. And when I was working at Dolly's and I would be between readings, I would practice them. And what I found out after going through that whole book is basically everything's a 1-card pull, a 3-card beginning spread, a 5-card more in-depth spread, and then a 10-card Celtic cross. There were some that were much more elaborate than that, but that got so confusing. And the only other reading I do is the one I'm doing right now, which is your next 12 months. and I mix, and this is when I mix decks. This is the base month. That's the main message of your month.
Right.
And then the Hanson Roberts is the modifier. It says kind of where it's going. And it's you have 24 cards, but they're out of 2 different decks. So you can end up, as one lady did this year, her December, she got both the Fools. She had the Fool as her card, and then the Fool is what's modifying that month. And I said, girl, you got to tell me what it's like to be with you in 2023 in December.
Right.
That's a whole lot of freedom and energy and taking off. But and that's one of the only readings I do where I mix cards from one deck to the other.
Oh, I mean, I don't mix my tarot cards, but I usually, anyone who follows me, I have got the whole desk covered in cards because I just don't know, right? What I'm going to be compelled to pull from or whatever. And then there's times where I've got the whole desk filled with cards and I still have to go over here and pull another deck because I just feel like that's the right one or whatever. I have a question. That was weird. Sorry, I don't even know. Hello, I'm the one asking the questions. Why wouldn't I have a question? That was so strange. Friends, what is happening to me? Do you read the bottom of the deck card as part of your reading?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
That's where you really have to go with your gut.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And it's because it's not always going to be what it needs to be at that point in time.
Yeah.
See, I always do, and I always find that it works.
Well, then that's your
Mhm.
energy.
That's your ML. That's your river.
Right.
Right.
But girl, I've been reading cards since I was 12. I've changed my style so much as you would expect. If I was still acting like at 73 like I did at 12, which there are some people who would argue that point, right, Jeffrey? Anyway.
Sometimes I get readings like that. It's sort of like,
Right.
Yeah, I remember. No, I tell you what, I ran into a lovesick 55-year-old man last night. Met someone new.
Austin wants to come and meet you or something. I don't know. He's trying to get on the chair here. Come here, buddy. Oh gosh, you're such a big boy. Okay, there you go. This is Austin, everybody. Yeah. You want to say hi to Jeffrey? Say, hey, Jeffrey, how's it going?
Meow, 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 meow.
You go to Jeffrey's neighborhood, it's full of dogs. You'll be running around. You'll lose a lot of weight.
I can't even, I don't even.
He reads in the middle of the night because they're not barking then.
We have another question here, and I love this question. So is it possible to read or toss cards yourself, or does the ego or your wish get in the way? There are some readers, I want to say before.
That's a hard one.
It is a hard one because some readers don't read for themselves because I guess they feel like they're like, in my opinion, it's not about ego. It's about bias, right? So it's kind of like what you're saying about your wish. If I have a preconceived idea as to what I think that the outcome is going to be, I might have a difficult time getting that idea out of my head to be able to see what the cards are actually telling me and to then trust what the cards are telling me, right? I don't often give myself readings, and I told a funny little story a couple of months ago, and I'll just share this and then I'll give it back to you guys. So I was standing in the kitchen one day and just all of a sudden was like, I should do a reading for myself. Totally not what I would normally do. And so I was like, all right. So off I came back here to my little office. I tossed my cards. And everyone knows my cards fly. I don't necessarily often flip one over. They just come out. And so I didn't ask a question. I was just shuffling the cards and just sitting here, and out they came. And I got like the Tower and the Devil and some other card. And I was like, oh, yikes. And I was like, well, that can't be right. So I pulled from another deck and I got the Tower card again. And I was like, oh, gosh. I don't like that at all. And then I picked the deck up and now I'm shuffling and I'm like, okay, like explain the Tower. Like, what are you trying to tell me, Spirit? And Now I'm putting the cards down, being very, very careful about what I'm doing. And I got the Tower card again, and I thought, okay, you know what? Every day when I do my daily readings, I say this. It's a general message. If it resonates, claim it. If it does not, leave it behind. And I was, obviously, this isn't for me. I'm leaving this behind. I got up and I walked away because my preconceived notion of the Tower in that moment, because I didn't ask a question, was like, oh, something bad's going to happen. And I thought, no, like, you know better than that, right? There's no reason for you to get upset or get excited. And so I literally had to walk away from it. And I told everyone when I came live the next time, like, that's what I said to myself. And then I sort of, I came back a couple hours later and tossed some more cards and got my information and was like, okay, I take it as, it's not the future. It is a possibility of what is to come, but you have free will. So you can change the course of events, right? It's not meant to scare anyone or to upset anyone. It is to give you sort of caution. You know what I mean? Like a cautionary sort of warning, I guess. I don't even like to say the word warning, but you know what I mean? Anyways, that's my version of that. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I have a tendency, if I ask a question, it's like, I'll just keep on pulling cards until I get the Sun or the Empress. Star.
Oh, I love it.
It's like, so I don't think any of us see ourselves clearly, right?
Oh,
we think we're more wonderful than we are, or much, much worse than we actually are. So I don't find that it's like a really good tool for me. What really does work for me is that if I really sit and get quiet with myself and I'll ask like my higher self or my angels, it's like, okay, what do I need to do next? What do I need to do next?
That's
like that.
great.
That works a lot more clearly than the cards, because it's kind of the way I interpret it, and so I could make, because there's like, say, the 10 of Cups, which is really a wonderful card. It's so wonderful that part of me wants to like set it on fire. So I find that if I ask for more of a direct message, I generally get that. That seems to work for me better than. But although I must say, I have a garden, that Nancy Jean designed with stones, and that is more accurate actually than the cards.
Yeah.
When you're talking about yourself, I'll tell you what, my kids.
To Jeffrey's point, Gerald said, for me, the question is very important. I 150% agree. It's all, for me, it's all about the question.
Right.
Yeah. Well, for me, I never really tried to read myself. I studied cards. I pull one a day and look at all the images and write notes, but I never tried to read a card for myself. But I also can't read my kids.
Right.
I can't read anybody that's in the family. And then when they would get married, I couldn't read. It happens to be that they were wives that were being brought in the family. I couldn't read them. The second they're divorced, I'm all over their business again.
Right.
So I don't know how that really works. I don't try to read. I've never even really tried to read my grandchildren because I gave up because I can't read my kids. But when my kids were growing up and they would have friends who found out what I did, they'd go, "Doesn't that freak you out that your mom can see all that stuff?" And they laugh and they go, "No, she can't read us. We're free."
Yeah.
But I had a lot of reader friends. So, what's this kid up to?
Gotcha.
There's other ways around it. But I think I warn people not to read themselves because I just really don't feel we have the mental objectivity to do that.
Do you have something? This is another question. Do you have something that either of you or both of you do that you do before, like to prepare yourself to read, whether it's coming live on YouTube or doing a private reading or like a group reading like you did last night? Is there something that you do that you feel is okay to share that's not private? Is there something that you do to prepare yourself to put yourself in a position to receive messages? And
Last night I was in a private home and I was in their son's bedroom, which is he's a great little kid with his artwork all over them, all over their walls and stuff. And it's a lovely place, but I went in and I set out a couple of crystals I took with me that I programmed before I left home to help me stay focused on my energy. I carried my pendulums in. I spent about 10 minutes before I read the first person, kind of filling myself into the space. And I used to burn incense, but I don't do that because, people are asthmatic and they have problems with that. So, but I just carry the mental image in to clear the space and make it open and make it a safe place for them to come and be with me. But before I get on YouTube, I have to do so damn much stuff because I have two different cameras. If I'm on Zoom, I'm using one set of cameras. If I'm on StreamYard, I'm using another. I'm so caught up in the technical wonder of being on screen that I'm lucky I get on time, guys. So
yeah,
that's my entire preparation, not going crazy before I come on.
It can be a lot, to come onto YouTube. I don't think that some people realize how, so there are people that will say, well, I mean, I just started my channel with my phone. And you're like, I'm sure Nancy Jean would say to that person, really? Like, how? Show me how.
No, I know. Dr. Dale did.
Exactly.
All you had to do was talk. But if you have to show cards, and mostly I really had to find a second camera when I had my garden. Because, with the tarot cards, I can listen to a tarot reader on a radio. And as long as they say what cards they're looking at, I can follow what they're reading.
Exactly.
I defy anybody, even me, to follow when someone's rolling. Not that it's that complicated, but how they line up and exactly how close they are to each other and all this stuff makes a difference because you're working with a greater amount of physical space.
That's a really, really good point. I want to come back to that. What do you think, Jeffrey? Like in terms of like preparing yourself?
It's for me, it's sort of instantaneous. I mean, I have to do my camera, but honestly, it's not that much. That's why my lighting isn't so good. But,
well, actually, I think your lighting is fabulous. And
I just have to check in myself.
Yeah.
Like, is this the time? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody wants a reading, and we made a schedule at noon on Monday, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll prep myself then, and sometimes I'll get messages. I'll already hear, like I'll get like a little, I don't know. I want to say a heads up. Heads up means danger, but not. I'll get like an understanding. It's like, oh, this is about the family. This is about. Sometimes I'll get that, but it's really an instantaneous, like light the fire, boom, go. Like for me, it's as simple as that. But sometimes it's like it's not there. It's like no, not right now.
Yeah.
Not right now.
When I go live, I listen to music, and most people, I have sort of stopped doing that. So normally people would join me and I'd be like listening to my music. It just puts me in a good mood. It puts me in a happy place, right? Lets me sort of like forget all the stuff that's going on around me. Obviously I have a moment. I spend time with my cards, right? While I'm shuffling out my cards and selecting the decks and I'm saying my prayer. I always have my amethyst in my hand. It's usually throughout the show. Because I have anxiety panic disorder, I get nervous. And so I do a lot of weird things in terms, and they're weird to maybe other people that don't understand them, but they're not weird to me. They're like coping mechanisms. So I'll do things like that to keep me calm, like put on my anti-stress oil, which is like natural. It's like citrus and lavender, and I think chamomile is in it. I chew gum because it helps me with my concentration. So there's things like that I'll do for myself, but it's not like a big theatrical production. It might take me all of 5 minutes, right, to shuffle out my cards and say my prayer, and just sort of get myself in a good state. All those other things have to happen before that, like the chewing gum and the anti-stress.
I do want to say one thing. I usually pull 3 cards out of one of Radley's decks, and it's past, present, future. And I read them to the person before we start the reading. These are especially for people I don't know who they are. They just gotten in touch with me, because I find that if they go, oh yeah, that's exactly where I am, and that's usually what the answer is. But sometimes it's like, no, that doesn't feel right. I'll throw another 3 and see if we come a little bit closer. But I have a book where every one of my readings is, and I always have those 3 cards are recorded in the book, because it gives me an idea that I'm tied into the right person. Because you can always, when I used to read live, I'd put out the cards, and nothing upset people more than when you said, no, I know this isn't you, and I gather them up. And I'll explain to them why I don't think it's them. And it could be as much as when I was at the wine bar, someone was standing behind that woman looking through the door, and that's the energy I got. So, but for the most part, I've never had to really take the 3 cards back up, except for one woman. And what we realized is the second card said the same thing as the first 3. And when she thought about it, she went, oh yeah, that's true. So, but I mean, you have to have a way to ground and know that you're connecting to their energy. And because I spent so much of my life not reading live, like with the little red button on the top of the screen, but really reading people, that I need that I need that from me to know I'm in the right space.
Yeah, reading a person. I mean, I've never read a person in person. I've only ever read a person on the screen, but like a private situation versus out of the chat, the energy is so much more intense for me personally, because it's just me and them, right? Sometimes the chat can get distracting in terms of the reading. I find, like if there's a lot of people in there, if there's a lot of people sort of like asking the same question, did you see my question? Did you see my question? Did you see my question? Like those kind of things, it can get very distracting. I tried really hard to take my eyes away from the chat and just focus on what I'm supposed to be focusing on. And sometimes if the chat is moving too much, and I don't even mean like too fast, I just mean like there's a lot of conversation going on in the chat that isn't necessarily about what we're doing, I will try to stare at the person's name in the chat to ask the question, or stare at the person's name if I've put it up on the screen to sort of zone in and sort of like get rid of all of the other stuff that's happening so I can concentrate. Because sometimes that is a problem for me, when the chat's like flying around,
Yeah.
Jeffrey, you're doing a lot more lives now. Are you finding it that way? Because you used to do a lot of.
Honestly, the less I pay attention to the chat, the better off I am. I have a message or something I have to say, or I'm reading, and that's it. And then occasionally I'll go back. And then sometimes at the end of lives, I'll say, okay, I'll do like a 3-card reading if you have one question, because some people it's like, oh, what happened to me when I was 5 years? I like, don't, it's free, leave the chat, and really.
Yeah.
So I'll answer like, say 3 people, like the first 3 people who come up, but that's it. I can't, I also just in my life, I work best with doing one thing at a time. I work best doing one thing at a time. I do one thing, I'm finished it, and then I'll get on to the next thing. I finish that, and then I get on to the next thing. Yeah, I don't really work well although I can cook and have a million things, some in the stove and some in the thing, everything comes out at the same time. Yeah, that I'm good at. But to do a lot of different, I don't really work well that way.
I find that the chat for me is like, this has nothing to do with the conversation, but to the point that we're saying, So yesterday, I started this segment on my channel called One Step at a Time, and it's about me literally getting out of the house. I don't leave my home, and that's not due to the pandemic. It's because of my anxiety. And I haven't been to a store in 2+ years. And yesterday, I decided to go live, and we were going to go to on a scenic kind of drive, and then we were going to go to the store. And if it wasn't for the energy and the support and the encouragement from the people in the chat, I know for certain that I would not have made it. I wouldn't have even gone in the store. I would have created some excuse and chickened out. And so they feed me in that way. They really sort of support and encourage me. And I try really hard to engage as often as I can. Although I haven't really done that today, and I apologize for that. But I normally try to engage as much as I can, and the reason why I do that is because of when I came to this community, I was broken. Like as an individual, personally, I was broken, and I received so much love and so much support from the people in the chat, not just the readers. It was like a separate sort of family that it was in the chat. And so I've often said they literally saved my life just by saying hello to me. Had nothing to do with tarot readings, had nothing to do with channeling messages. It was just another person saying hello to another person. That's all it was. And so it is vastly important to me that I try to be as engaged as I can without taking away from what I'm trying to do, is kind of where I was going with that. Right. But to your point, Jeffrey, about what you were saying, it is also important for the people in chat to understand that when you're channeling messages and you're trying to toss cards and concentrate, that was my cat knocking stuff over, trying to concentrate on the question and get out the right message, sometimes the chat can be a distraction, right? Just the fact that you're looking at the screen and this thing is flying around beside you, it's hard, because you can see it. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I've had to watch many a show, wait for the 5 or 6 hours for the chat to happen, or to show up, and then have to go back and watch the chat of my own show that I just did.
Oh, you're a brave soul. I never look back. I watch the weeklies if I want to remember something that I think we said. But as far as watching my long shows, I can't believe my voice sounds like it sounds.
Right.
And so, no. And as far as I'm concerned, for the chat, we're here, we're providing a service. We're also selling what we do. So you have to understand we're going to point ourselves that way. I had someone who criticized me for talking about my gardens and my grids and my chakra eggs.
Really?
And yeah, and I read the thing, and I just didn't play with it. I just left it alone, But quite honestly, you got to realize we're here to connect to you. We're here to connect and give you more service, but you can't do unless I'm selling something like when I was first on, I would do a past life reading to explain to people what it was, and I would get a person to be engaged because I can't read to thin air. I just can't. Right. So, but you guys have to realize this is what we do. We invest our time for whatever level on it, and I think we try to produce a good product, and in my case, I produce way too many products as far as my mind goes right at the moment. But it's really, thank you, Genealogy Junkie.
I agree wholeheartedly.
But I think it's wonderful. It's just you are a wonderful community, and but I was so used to being with real people. It took me for a long time. Actually, my guides kicked me in the butt and said, "You're creating this thing called Nancy Jean's Garden," and they prescribed the whole thing. That's what my intro's about. That's what they took me through to see it.
I love it.
And it's a place for people to come have their spirit grow, and that's what I think's important about shows like this. which kind of goes beyond just the mechanics of the 3 of the swords means this and the 2 of the whatever means that.
Well, thank you, Nancy Jean.
Mhm.
So my last question is, actually, I have 2 more questions real quick. So, well, the first question hopefully is quick. Best advice for someone who is considering starting to learn tarot, whether it be on YouTube or just for themselves. Best advice.
Learn numerology. I mean, just the basics. Learn 1 through 9, understand what they mean, then create a clear concept of how you feel about the minor arcana suits, the figures, the swords, the pentacles, the wands, and the cups, and how do you relate to them? Then, if one is independence and freedom, what does that mean when it's matched with your impression of the cup? And that's where you start. That's when I teach my class. As Kelly will tell you, the first class was, you're not doing any tarot tonight, you're doing numerology. And the blessing about that is if you teach someone numerology, teach them their own, what they're going to do for the next week is they're going to do all their friends and families and coworkers and anybody they got a birthday for. And so by the time you meet up with them as a tarot teacher, they got 1 through 9 down. Then we just go through the suits. And then we go through what are the figures of the major arcana mean? I mean, what do the royal suits mean? And then I just do the Fool's Journey, which is you can actually find online.
Yeah. That was the thing that helped me the most. Just saying, Hypnicity. I have Ann Perry coming to visit in January, and she's going to teach us all about numerology. Ann Perry has a YouTube channel here. I can stick that in.
Ann Perry numerologist. It's not hard.
No. Well, I can't remember. I couldn't remember if there was something under it or other than that. She's been on with Nancy Jean. She's been on with Dr. Dale. She's a wonderful lady, fellow Canadian. Shout out. Woohoo. But yeah, the numerology is really interesting. But for me, it was the journey of the major arcana that then made the story make sense to me. Because otherwise I was like, okay, I got 4 suits and 21 trump cards. I don't really get it. And I don't mean trump as in DJT. I mean, like if you were playing euchre or something. It was so messy to me. I got the suits, but I couldn't get the major arcana. That was my hump. I couldn't get past it. Once Nancy Jean sort of took me through like it's a journey, I was like, oh, now it makes sense. Jeffrey, sorry, what's your best advice?
I love what Nancy had to say, because I very much concentrate on numerology, very much, and have since the beginning. And so I just, what came to mind is sometimes you're reading for somebody in person and they're so fascinated. They're like, well, how did you see that? Right. And let's say you have a spread in front of you, 6 cards or 10 or whatever. I say, so which card is the most interesting card to you? And they'll pick one. They'll say, why? And they'll say, well, it's this color, that the individual looks like this. I said, well, that's the beginning of reading cards.
Yes.
That's the beginning of reading cards.
Yeah.
It's like that card, it's dark or it's light or it's yellow or it's a very simple card or a very complicated card, and you'll get a feeling. And that's because we're really talking about intuitive tarot.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and even as you were asking the question, I am envisioning the Fool. It's like, jump in. That's how.
Yeah.
How do you learn how to swim? You get in the water.
Yes.
That's how you learn how to swim.
Yes.
I'm a really good cook because I threw away a lot of food.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. Oh, I'm going to buy 10 books and then I'm going to mix up all the recipes. That's how you learn. Yeah. I made a mistake. I learned from that. I made another mistake. I learned from that. That's why I'm so smart, because I make a lot of mistakes.
That's right.
Yay.
My best advice is you got to trust yourself. If it's like anything, if you want to do it and you believe in it, or you believe it's a good thing for you, or you believe you're going to, be better because of it, then you've got to trust in that process, and also to enjoy the process.
Yeah, have to
You
play.
can learn so much from it.
You have to feel like you're playing. You have to go in with that. imagination of playing with things and working with it that way. That's the only way you're people say, how do you learn to read cards? I said, you read the damn cards. Get some kind of methodology behind it. um, by the end of my 6 weeks class, I had people being able to do past lives, and the graduation from my class was every person who was in the class, and there were only like six. This was real life classes. They'd bring a friend no one else knew.
Yeah.
We'd sit the friends in the room, and we'd tell everybody go to a table, someone you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and you read them. And that's when people really see
Yes.
how it works.
Yeah. And I love that. That's such a cool moment. All right. So our last question.
Mm-hmm.
Our last question is this. And Jeffrey, I'm going to put you on the hot seat first.
Oh.
Yeah, brace yourself, my friend. I enjoy reading with Nancy Jean because I feel blank.
Supported.
Nancy Jean.
Mm-hmm. I read Nancy Jean.
No, I enjoy reading with Jeffrey because his energy does blank for me.
It's always lighthearted. He's not a Debbie Downer. He reads for the he reads to the positive without ignoring reality. And I think that's really important, because you'll see readers that'll make, everybody's going to grow up to be a fairy princess, and everybody's going to grow up to this. And that's really hard. It's hard to find people that want to talk about those kinds of issues. And he's very forgiving as far as letting me talk over him.
I do it all the time. I don't mean to. It happens, right?
Oh.
Since you have had the pleasure of reading with both of us, I'm going to put you on the hot seat again, basically because I want to hear good stuff about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Nudge, nudge in advance. There's your hint. I enjoy reading with Kelly because she does blank for me. So what do I do?
When I hear her speak, it reminds me of my home, because she's Canadian. And she says a boat. And she says a lot of other words. And she's actually right near the part of Ontario my parents grew up in. So it's like going and talking to an old friend, more than a reader. She's a really good reader. When I first met her, she kept saying, "Oh, I can't read. I can't read." And I did the class. I sent her all my material and said, "Read this." And she was very disciplined about being ready for the class, which I really appreciated. And when we were reading, I'm going, "You're reading. I don't and you're doing it. Just relax and do it." I mean, this goes back to my old thing. If you want to learn how to read cards, and she was open and willing to do that. And since then, she's grown. She comes up with some very creative ideas on how to present herself and other readers.
Well, thank you, Nancy Jean. I enjoy reading with you because when the teacher gives you a nod of acceptance or belonging or support or encouragement or approval, insert whatever word feels good for you, it does something to you. It gives me an extra shot of love, and it gives me an extra shot of confidence. And if anyone is going to say, "Hey, it's okay, kiddo, come on, I'll read with you," I mean, honestly, it makes my day. So and that anytime you say, "Hey, Kelly," I'm like, "Yep, I'm available." Now, I've not had the pleasure of reading with Jeffrey yet, but so far I really enjoy your vibe. I've listened to your channel for a long time, and I get a kick out of the way that you are so, like, you just keep it real, and I love that about you. And the other day you did a really, really cool video where you said that you just felt compelled to put this video out, that you were doing readings, and that was really cool, and it spoke to me. So I appreciated that, And I thought to myself, if I get a chance to read with Jeffrey, which by the way, his friends backstage, I'm going to hold him hostage and make him say yes to me, just saying.
No, let me go.
It's the Eight of Swords, Jeffrey.
Right. If I get a chance to read with Jeffrey, I feel like we could do a good combination. So I look forward to being able to sort of experience that with you, because you seem lovely. Like, honestly, you seem lovely.
Thank you.
So, do you find people have anything that you would like to share with everyone in the chat as to what's happening on your channels? Something that they can tune in to watch over the next couple of weeks without giving us your entire schedule?
I don't even know what my entire schedule is.
What?
Yeah.
No.
I really don't.
Next week, I'm relatively open because I'm doing 12-month readings. And so I'm trying to book those in for people. You can go to my website and go to my store and find out how to book one of those. And my car's still broken. So I have Tuesday, I get to go sit at the garage and see how bad the damage is. And then we were talking about it, and I will not, for those of you who didn't hear it, Scott and I decided Christmas weekend, we were not reading. Although this is going to be a hell of a week to miss all the news stories. But I also had a couple people in the chat over there who said they'd be alone on New Year's Eve, on Christmas Eve. And that kind of makes me crazy because I used to have a huge party when I was young, and I'd tell people that were coming to it. It was always on Christmas Eve. I had seafood chowder, and I used to be a chef's apprentice at a high-end kitchen, and I would make all these incredible cakes and all this food, and I invite people to my house. And invariably, there'd be 4 or 5 people who would tag along with somebody. I actually had people sitting on my couch crying because they thought they were going to be so alone on Christmas Eve, and this gave them a place to come. So I think I may be wearing down, and I may be doing something on Christmas Eve. I can't give you the chowder and stuff, guys.
I was just put into the chat. I literally just posted it up today. And we're going to get back to Jeffrey in a second, but to Nancy Jean's point about that, last year it was really important to me. I know that the holidays are not easy for everyone. It's not all, Santa cookies and reindeer for everybody. It was very important to me that someone was open for business, if you want to call it that, just to provide an environment where we could have a few laughs. And so I'm doing that again this year. I'll be on the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Readers are welcome to join me on the screen. Mm-hmm. If you're looking for, something to do, people in the chat, anyone that was here last year, and I'm also here on New Year's Eve too. I celebrated New Year's like in 3 different time zones last year in one live. It was fabulous. Just as an
outfits.
Mm-hmm. Outright. I didn't wear my antlers. I didn't sit down in time. I had these on this morning.
Yes, you did. You had those earlier when you were on with Scott. Oh my God. Jeffrey, what's coming up for you, love?
Well, I'm going to be doing a live on Sheila Celtic Tarot on the 21st. I'm not really sure what time yet. I think I might actually have a guest on Christmas Day. That's it hasn't been like we haven't signed the contract, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm trying to have more guests of people who are doing things, spiritual things. And I saw, some oddball, sort of like what Nancy's do. Like Nancy has people who with earth energies and things like that. I'm trying to invite more of that in.
Yeah.
Plus, I read tarot, but I also what I'm trying to do is ignite your spirit. I mean, basically,
absolutely
same thing, So I find that there's somebody that has a message or an idea. I'd like to, have them join me, and I think I'm going to be doing more. I don't know where it's going. It's so like I'm being led. It's really like the moon card, the way I see the moon card. It's like it's a mysterious path. It's not really clear where it's going, but I know it's the right way.
Don't
It's a
you
little
love that? It's
Mhm.
very cool.
And that's what's really going on with me in my life and on my channel, on my and with my art life, with everything. And so that is that. And yeah, that's that. I would like to do more like maybe Mexico videos, like
Very
maybe
cool.
travel or something. I don't know. It's all floating around, but nothing has really quite gelled yet.
Well, you
And
do your weeklies. You could mention the weeklies.
Yes.
oh, okay. So now I'm back to, thank you. I'm back to doing dailies. I do weeklies with Nancy Jean. I do weeklies on my own. I do I make 90 videos a month.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I make 90 videos a month.
I got you beat because I do dailies, I do a weekly wellness, I do a weekend reading, but they're fun, are they not?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love them.
You two are making me feel like a slouch.
Yeah. Hashtag overachiever, as my friend Gerald says. So, friends, please do go show Nancy Jean's Garden and Ripe Color Tarot some love by subscribing to their channels. They're excellent people, excellent readers, and my friends. So, well, I'm assuming Jeffrey's my friend because he came. So that we're just friends.
You wear a cute outfit too.
I do want to say that coming up this week, we have what is going on this week. Does anybody know? No, I'm joking. I'm going to be on Longman Tarot on Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern with Gerald, doing winter solstice. It's conversation, some readings. So we look forward to that. And then, of course, it's the 24th, the 25th, and the 26th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'll be sending an email out to the readers. So if anyone wants to join, they can. Then I'm back on New Year's Eve at 8 p.m. And then I've got a whole slew of really, really cool things happening in January. Just a few of the highlights. We've got Ivana Intuitive joining me on the 2nd for what's coming up for the January for the zodiac signs. On the 6th, the first Think Spirit, it's Friday of the new year. We have Ron Unconditional Love joining us. On the 9th, we have Ann Perry, the numerologist, coming. On the 4th, I forgot this one, sorry. Adrian from Red Lentil Healing and Johnny from Tarot's Apprentice will be joining me for an interrogation. As we move down the month, we have, are you ready for this, friends? Hold on to your seat. We have Dr. Lena Rodriguez and Sienna Rose from Sienna Rose Metaphysical, who are the creators of this deck, joining me for an interrogation. So tune in, buckle up, lots of good things happening. And if we don't see you before the holidays, please, please, please have yourself a very Merry Christmas and a spectacular New Year to you and your families. We wish you lots of love and we wish you many blessings. And with that, we're going bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.